This is a rambling rose. There are several different types of roses, and some of them can be very similar to each other. A rambling rose tends to flower on the new growth, which it produces very vigorously every year. This is one example of the new growth. So what we're going to do at this time of year, it's now November, nearly December, is to cut out the old growth to keep rejuvenating the rose, because it'll flower best on the new year's growth. So we're going to take out all the old growth that has got small side shoots on it like that. Now last year that was obviously pruned to there instead of it taking it right down, and it still flowered and it will still flower. That's fine, but in order to keep it more vigorous and younger, it's better to tie in the new younger shoots. So first of all, I'm also going to try and take out some of the stuff that is blocking the view of the rose, like that, so we can see what we're doing. When you're doing this, always be careful that you're not cutting whatever it is that the rose is attached to, like that gripple. So this stem, you can see, has got lots of small side stems on it. So that shows it's been there for a few years. Last year it was obviously cut to there. So that new stem grew out, and then more new stems grew off it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right to the bottom of that stem and just cut it off. When you're doing something as drastic as this, you need to make sure that you are holding the stem that you're wanting to cut, because it can be very easy to cut off a stem that actually you didn't intend to cut off. And I'm going to cut any other dead or very old bits of growth out, because this is a very vigorous rose and it will recover absolutely fine. And these are the younger, fresher bits of growth that we will tie in. Take that one out. By looking at the leaves, really. So it is tricky, and it's done with experience really, about which bits to cut out and which bits to leave in. So you can see this has a lot of fresh new growth on it, and it would flower, but it's also got older growth on it like that, and it's not a fresh new stem. This, you can see, is a very long, fresh new stem. Although it's not coming out of the very crown of the plant, it is coming from quite low down. So we will tie that in like that, and if need be, we'll trim the end off if it's coming outside of where we want it. So coming from the crown here, you can see quite a lot of dead. So we'll get that out like that. And you will see that suddenly the whole framework starts to look a lot simpler when you've got rid of all the very old stuff, the dead stuff, the damaged bits, and you can see much more what you're working with and what you want to tie in then. And you can get a lot of dieback in 1 year, which can happen to a very healthy rose. But as you can see, the rest of this rose is still looking very healthy. So it doesn't look like it's got a problem with it. It's just that bits of it are old and need to come out. You could also tell to some extent the age by the colour of the stem. For example, you can see that this one, you can see it's older if you look at the end of it, because it's got a lot of dieback on there. And if you look at the stem, it's a lot lighter than these fresh new green ones, brighter green ones. So you can see that's a lovely fresh new stem, which we will tie in. And I will probably keep this one, even though it's older, because it's nice and long and it'll tie in very well. So even though I'm going to probably keep this older branch, I'm going to cut off the dead bits. I may decide, when I'm training it in, I may decide to actually cut bits off that I kept before, and it's part of keeping it until you know you don't want it. Some things I know I don't want, others I'm not sure. Now this is a blackberry which is going to be tied in separately. So I've now mostly got the ones that I keep, that I want to keep here, but I need to get this from over the fence. Right, as you can see here, I don't know, Nick, if you want to zoom on this bit up here. You've got this bit of rose here that is actually pulling off this top. So I'm going to cut that off straight away because that top bit of fence is being pushed off. That's freed up this bit of rose now. I'll be able to tie this in. You can see that actually some of these rambling roses grow incredibly long. A lot of rambling roses are used to grow up trees just because they're so vigorous. So now that I've taken this bit out and seen how long it is, I'm going to take this older one out that I wasn't sure about. I'm going to take that out now. And I'm going to cut it to, there's a little node there that's pointing in this direction. So I'm going to cut just above that. And that means that hopefully new growth will go in that direction. Now this is going through a blackberry, so I'll deal with the blackberry separately. I just want to get rid of this rose so I can see what I've got left to tie in. What we've got on this wall is a support system called Gripple, which for this type of support is a nylon, like a thick nylon string with fasteners each end, which will only allow the string to go one way. So when you pull the string through, it won't then go back again, so it can tighten and stay tight. Now this has obviously managed to loosen itself a little bit, probably by stretching the Gripple over the years. So we're going to tighten that a bit before we tie this rose back on. So if you can, it's always best to attach roses to the outer side of a support system. Makes it much easier to train it over the years. So this one has managed to get parts of itself growing behind the Gripple. So what we want to do is to thread it back through the other side of the Gripple and try not to damage too much of it. Nice as it is to have gloves on when you're working with roses, it's actually very nearly impossible to tie things in when you're wearing gloves. I find, some people manage, but I find it's very, very difficult. Now I prefer using string because I think it looks natural, and although it rots, it doesn't tend to damage the plant. Whereas some of the plastic ties and metal ties over time can do, because they don't naturally loosen. You may have to tie something in and then re-tie it if it looks the wrong shape. Basically, what you're wanting to do is to get as horizontal as possible a shape. Now it's fine for it to go up and curve down like that, which I think I will do because there is so much of this. And I don't want it to go too far into the bramble. So basically, the more horizontal growth you manage, the more side shoots you're likely to get, and the side shoots produce the roses, so the more flowers you get. So as a rule of thumb, if you manage to get it more, if you manage to train, and this carries with fruit trees as well, if you manage to train something more horizontally like this, then you get lots of side shoots and more flowers. So it's something to encourage. A lot of people train their roses going straight up, and what happens is they have a lovely straight rose with flowers at the top, but long bare stems on the way up quite often, or not many flowers. So this is the best way to really make sure that you get the flowers as well. Now I'm going to trim this a little bit, just because it's very close to this blackberry, and I don't want it actually growing into the blackberry.
Don't forget, like, comment, share and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.